Roll, Mr. Calderon,
Here.
Ms. Appleton,
Here.
Mr. Romine,
Here.
Ms. Jones,
Here.
and I'm here. I've asked Ms. Appleton to say a prayer and Mr. Romine to lead us in the pledge. Feel free to join us if you'd like.
Dear Father, we thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for the beautiful weather that we've had the last couple of days. And we know that you are in even the smallest parts of our lives. And we thank you for that. We thank you for our students, our staff, and our parents. And just pray that you'll continue to watch over them and take care of them. Please forgive us, Lord, where we have sinned against you, and help us to seek out the way that you would have us to go in our lives. And we'll just praise your name for it, Lord. These things I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business, I'd like to take a motion for approval of the agenda for this meeting, February 25th, 2025.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, I'd like to seek approval for action on the minutes of the regular board meeting of January 21st, 2025. We've had our packets. Anybody saw anything they need to change? Anything was wrong? Not, I'll seek a motion.
So moved.
Partly moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Presentations.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, we have presentations this evening, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Rozier for recognition of our Lee County Spelling Bee Award winners. If y'all want to make your way down front. Okay. We'll make space.
Yeah, thank you.
Tonight I bring to you our top 3 spellers from our Lee County Spelling Bee. Hobbs brings our students, we bring students from all over the county for our spelling bee. It's a really cold night, but we heated it up with lots of rounds of spellers. Went close to 24. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So tonight our first place winner, Michaela Kirby, she's an 8th grader from Taylor Middle School. Favorite word is spell. Yeah.
Well, the winning word.
That's okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Our second place speller is a 2nd grader from Jefferson, or a 4th grader from Jefferson Elementary, Aqua Estrada Mendez. I don't see her here tonight with her spelling bee principal, sponsor, someone. Someone stand in her place. Oh, I might make it. It was supposed to be. Oh, maybe something. She'll get yours.
Tell her we.
Congratulations on me. Thank you.
Oh, I worked hard. I worked hard. And our 3rd place speller is Kirk Zhang Ong from Stone Elementary. He's a 4th grader as well. Our top 5 spellers get to participate in the online spelling bee. That's their next
Congratulations.
mission. They have to actually log in and qualify based on how they spell online. So, is that competition tomorrow? Thursday. On Thursday. So, if you guys been studying, if you guys want to come up here in the middle, We'll get a picture.
Give you good spelling vibes.
I'll try to stand up, Jean,
Okay.
so you can move over.
Turn it
Yep.
over.
Mhm.
Right up here for me.
Our next presentation, I'll bring down Anna Welding. Freshman high, we have, I'll let her introduce our.
President, members of the board, Superintendent Parks, I give to you Mr.
Parks.
Sebastian. Would you like to have my job, sir? My apologies, Superintendent Strickland. Where my head's at. I give to you Sebastian Anchondo, our first place winner in the creed.
Recycle.
Congratulations.
He could do it.
Good job. Okay, the creek. You're in the middle, son.
Sebastian, would you like to recite it for us?
Yeah, you're with him.
Veo, en mi cultura la agricultura. Una fe que no nace de las palabras, sino de los hechos. Logros conseguidos por las actividades del agricultor. La promesa de días mejores a través de mejores maneras. Así como creo que las mejores cosas de las que hoy gozamos han llegado a nosotros como resultado de la lucha de años atrás. Creo que vivir y trabajar en una buena finca, dedicarse a otras actividades agrícolas es agradable y al mismo tiempo es un reto, pues reconozco las alegrías e inconvenientes de la vida agrícola. Tengo una afición innata por aquellas asociaciones que no les negaré ni siquiera en horas de desaliento. Creo en nuestro propio liderazgo y en el respeto hacia los demás. Creo en mi propia capacidad de trabajar de manera eficiente y de pensar con claridad con cuantos conocimientos y habilidades puede adquirir. Capacidad de los agricultores progresistas para servir nuestros propios intereses y el interés público. Producción y comercialización del producto de nuestro trabajo. Creo en menos dependencia de la calidad y más poder en la negociación. La vida abundante, y que hay suficiente riqueza honesta para ayudar a que así sea tanto para los demás como para mí. Necesidad de la caridad y más de ella cuando sea necesario. Creo en ser feliz y en ser más honesto con aquellos cuya felicidad depende de mí. Creo que la agricultura de los Estados Unidos puede y debe mantenerse fiel a las mejores tradiciones de nuestra vida nacional, que puede ejercer influencia en mi hogar y en la comunidad, que se mantendrá firme por mi parte en esta inspiradora tarea. Gracias.
Mhm.
Everybody,
Get him close.
there you go. Qualify you for national. National. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
All right, if you need to check on our phone. You're fine. Must have aged. So Madam President, member, or Mr. President, I did the same thing. The thousand, I know. So Mr. President, members of the board, it is an honor to recognize an exceptional group of educators, our National Board Certified Teachers. Achieving National Board Certification is one of the highest honors in the teaching profession, representing a deep commitment to excellence in education, professional growth, and an unwavering dedication to students. These teachers have undergone a rigorous, reflective process demonstrating advanced teaching practices, subject mastery, and the ability to meet the diverse needs of all learners. Their achievement not only elevates their own practice, but also enriches our entire educational community. Today, we celebrate not just their accomplishments, but the profound impact they have on students' lives every day. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to our nationally board certified teachers. Those educators are Haley Armstrong, Marsha Cannon, Catherine Gonzalez, Summer Rickman. Congratulations. Heather Rodriguez.
Congratulations.
Debbie Dean.
Congratulations.
Loretta Milligan. Melanie Cacao.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
And Cynthia Trevino.
Congratulations.
A quick show of hands, how many of you just received notification that you're a new nationally board certified teacher in December? Yeah, absolutely. A couple of them have maintained their certification since the early 2000s, like 2002, is that right? Three maybe?
I think Loretta is.
6 or 7? 6 or 7? And so that's a process they have to repeat. Don't just get it forever, it's not a lifetime.
Oh.
And so, they sign up for that every single time. But ladies, I want to express our appreciation, because each of you are true leaders and champions in education. Our kids are better because of your commitment to being better. Thank you on behalf of House Schools. And if they're going to want a picture, but I'm going to give each one of you one of our House Eagle pins. Some of you may have one, but now you have this one for this reason. Yep.
Just say, we'll get the board back up behind them.
Oh. Okay. All right.
What he said.
Ladies, would you tighten up, lean this way a little bit? Here we go.
I don't
I have
know.
a sleep for symmetry, I can't help it.
You can see.
Thanks, ladies. Mr. President, Board, while they're going back to their seat or others are clearing their seats, I wanted to highlight an opportunity. So through a partnership with the Permian Strategic Partnership, all of our teachers have access to that nationally board certified teacher process. ESP will fund that. The financial benefit to our teachers is that they receive a nationally board certified stipend to maintain that. The way that works is whatever the unit value is, which this year it's about $6,600, they receive 1.5 unit value directly to them individually, as long as they maintain it. So for other educators in the room that are listening, there is a financial incentive to do that, 1.5 times what that unit value is. So, roughly almost $10,000, $9,000, somewhere in there. So appreciate you all. Thank you.
How many men?
0 currently. Every single one of our national board certified teachers were here tonight, and I appreciate them
Oh.
taking that opportunity to show up. So those are the 9 that we have. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, pardon the interruption, but we would be amiss if we didn't recognize our chapter sponsors of our FFA. You guys stand and be recognized. Doesn't happen without great leaders.
And I'll say it again, if y'all need a sponsor for nationals, I'm in. Okay, all right.
Where is it?
Indianapolis
Oh, cool.
in October.
Oh.
Good luck.
It's not cold there at all.
Last time, I think it was like.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cold.
Like I said, thank y'all so much for coming. That's a great honor. The National School Board certification, the FFA, that was awesome. I was an FFA in high school and, I definitely couldn't recite the creed, that was for sure.
Yeah,
So
that was pretty
that was
awesome.
that was pretty good. So great job on that. So thank you everybody for coming and their spelling bee winners as well. That's pretty cool. So, like I said, y'all can stick around if you want. We're fixing it down to the board business, so definitely, welcome to stick around. If you need to take off, you feel free to do so as well. So, next up, we have presentations,
No.
Comments.
public comments.
Yes, sir. And Mr. President, we had 3 registrations this time.
Okay. For the public comment session, I'll call each person up that registered, if you're here in the audience. Please limit your presentation to 5 minutes. That gives every speaker their allotted time to address the board. If you have a group of people here with the same issue or whatever in mind, please, if you want to pick a speaker to come down and speak on your behalf, that'd be fine as well. The public comment session, as board members, due to the Open Meeting Act, we're not allowed to comment, pass any action, or anything like that on the comments. We definitely welcome comments and welcome you being here and sharing your thoughts with the board. But however, due to the Open Meeting Act, we're only allowed to comment, make action, and things like that on what's on our agenda. So, okay. All right. So first off, Ms. Alvarado. Angelica Alvarado. Out here.
Is that Aqua?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's,
Oh. Is our other board?
There we go.
Hi, honey, how are you? Guess what? We gave your flag to this. This is Aqua. She was 4th grader, second
Awesome.
place.
Beautiful.
amazing.
Kenny, we'll let her take a picture behind us here.
Great job. Come back right over here by me and take a picture. Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Go right back there. While we take a picture.
I'm out of line. Stay right here and we'll take a picture, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little closer, Joe.
Married woman.
Got it?
Thanks, Aqua. Congratulations.
Thank y'all. carrying on with our public comments. Mr. Burns? Mr. Burns, you in the audience? Ms. Luna?
Superintendent Strickland, thank you, and board members for your time. I stand before you today with a simple but urgent message. Schools should be safe spaces. Every student, regardless of their background, should be able to walk into a classroom knowing that they are protected, valued, and free to learn without fear. But for many immigrant students and their families, that is not the reality. Instead of being places of growth and opportunity, schools are becoming sites of anxiety where the threat of deportation looms over children like a storm cloud. The presence of ICE in and around public schools erodes trust in the very institutions meant to nurture young minds. It forces students into silence, discourages parental involvement, and disrupts the fundamental right to education. No child should have to sit in a classroom wondering if they or their family members will be taken away before the school day is over. This is not just a policy issue, it's a moral issue. Schools are meant to protect, not police. They're places of learning, not law enforcement. When ICE operates in and around schools, it sends a dangerous message that our education system is complicit in the criminalization of immigrants. This is unacceptable. Let's be clear, ICE has no place in public schools. The U.S. Supreme Court has affirmed that every child, regardless of immigration status, has a right to an education. That right means nothing if students feel too unsafe to show up. If fear keeps them away from their classrooms, then we as a society have failed them. That is why we are calling on our schools and districts to take a stand. We demand public commitments that explicitly denounce ICE activity in and around our schools. We demand clear policies that affirm schools as sanctuary spaces where students and families can feel safe and supported. We demand that educators and administrators stand up against intimidation and refuse to collaborate with ICE in ways that harm our communities. I want to remind everyone that this is a real threat and not simply a perceived threat to many members in our community. So I ask you to not minimize the situation and act now to protect our students before we are faced with a situation similar to what just recently occurred in Las Cruces with their high school swim team. This is the exact scenario that I had discussed with the principal in the Hobbs High School District weeks ago. I asked then if our coaches and our bus drivers were trained in handling a situation in which an ICE agent would try to gain access to our school bus and question the students. I was assured that that would not be the case, and it was such a relief how welcoming she was to me in having this conversation and her commitment to protecting her students. However, since our school bus drivers are contracted and we utilize charter buses without school logos, we can find ourselves in that exact situation where we allow ICE agents to intimidate our students, and if we allow that to take place, then we would have failed our students. History will remember what we do in this moment. Do we choose to protect the most vulnerable amongst us, or do we remain silent as families are torn apart? Schools must lead with courage, not fear. They must foster inclusion, not division. And they must remain spaces of leading, not detention, of learning and not detention. For the sake of our students, for the future of our communities, and for the values we claim to uphold, we must make it clear, ICE is not welcomed in our schools. I want to add that if we can make a public comment, because many of the people who are afraid are not coming up to ask these very questions because of that very fear. And I know the school has a protocol in place if ICE were to come to the doors, and it is very welcoming sharing that it is something that is exactly to protect our students. But the parents don't know that. The students don't know that. And they would like to know that their children are safe. That when they go to these events, to school events, whether any sporting event, that their kids are going to be safe, just like any other parent would. And I think it's important if we pass this information on and we make a public comment and let the students know. I know there's an app that the school uses, and that would be a good way maybe to give this information to the parents, to students, what the protocol is for the school. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. make sure that Mr. Strickland or Ms. Terry has your contact. I think we have her email. Make sure we have your phone. And we can reach out and follow up. Administration. Thank you so much. Any additional comments on the board?
I'll reserve mine till the end.
Sir?
I'm gonna reserve mine till the end because of the policy.
Thanks again for everyone. Thank you. Human Resources.
President, members of the board. So for your information tonight, the reports for certified employment. Last board meeting, we have added 9 new classroom teachers and 1 other certified individual, school nurse. Classified employment, 9 individuals came on with us. Certified resignation, we did have 2 individuals that resigned for, one for a personal issue, the other one didn't allow them to continue with this. Had 8 classified resignations. Let's skip 5 and go to number 6. We did have 1 certified discharge last board meeting. Last piece of information. For cabinet level members, 526.
Okay, I can't help it. Do we really need all of these, especially the first one? Okay, I've got it out of my system.
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions, comments?
No, I've already done that. I'm sorry. Promised myself I'd be better.
Next section, the HR presentation. So I know Mr. Strickland has asked that we can actually hear yourself. That we present departments as we, and I know we took a 2 or 3 month lapse in that, and now we're getting back to it. And I appreciate Mr. Strickland allowing for us, the 2 best departments to go last. Okay, so you get HR tonight, finance. No, I'm kidding. All the departments are great. We all work well together. Here next to me is Miss Andy Engel. She's the Deputy Superintendent for Human Resources. Okay, so we'll just kind of go through the PowerPoint, and if anytime you want to add anything, please. So basically, we do have a mission with HR, and it is tied to the school mission overall, the district mission, along with our core values. That the HR department does play a vital role in fulfilling the mission of the Hobbs schools by ensuring that our district is staffed with dedicated, highly qualified professionals, which I think you saw a large group of those folks tonight. And we want to provide a safe learning environment and foster a culture of excellence and opportunity, not only for our staff, but for our students, because anybody that gets into this profession is in it for our students. We feel like in the department, we're service oriented in that we try to make it as easy as possible to bring people on, to make, because there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of things that go on that sometimes people get frustrated. So we try to go out of our way to make it as easy as possible. We try to be student-centered in our hiring. Our principals do a great job when they look for individuals that are looking at the best interest of students. And we're always looking to build capacity in our folks, be it through professional development or, in Mr. Cantu's case, the on-the-job trainings that he's doing with the leadership pipeline. And so we're always looking to see what we can do to build that capacity within the people that we have here, because we have great people. Again, we embrace innovation. We're always looking for new ways to try to improve our processes to make it easier for the employees. And then I'll let Ms. Engel speak here in a little bit about some new strategies that we're looking to attract, retain top talent and develop that top talent. And so again, it's about accountability and continuous improvement on our part to make sure that we're putting out the best product of an employee. That way our students in the classroom have the best available. So some of the key functions, recruitment and hiring, obviously right there at the top. Ms. Engel, I'll let you kind of talk to some of the things that you've done here in the last year since you, well, 7-8 months.
7-8 months, yes, yes.
I know you've kind of taken on with Grow Your Own and recruiting, and you want to speak a little bit about some of the new recruiting efforts you're looking at?
Okay. So, Mr. President, members of the board, thank you for having me. It's been a huge learning curve from going from special services to human resources, but just like Mr. Byrd said, our number one priority is service, and that's service to our employees and our students. If we take good care of our employees, we train our employees, we give them all of the necessary things that they need, they're going to take care of our students. So one of my main focus this year has been our new teachers, really supporting our new teachers. We have 2 wonderful ladies that come down from Alamogordo and Las Cruces once a month, and they meet with our new teachers for 2 hours, and they do professional development based on what our new teachers have asked for. So if it's classroom management, if it's discipline, if it's student engagement, or interventions for maybe our struggling readers, they'll come in and they tailor that PD to what our teachers need. And that's been very helpful. And we've received a lot of great feedback on that. Our mentors, we've really tried to pair our mentees with a mentor at their school, hopefully possibly in their grade level if that allows, so that they get that side-by-side collaboration on a daily basis, which is really important. The Grow Your Own program, that's just an amazing program that I'm not even sure how many years we've had Grow Your Own, but
This is
first year, yeah. But I guess because we're in our second cohort. We have our first cohort. I wished I had the numbers in front of me, but I believe we started out with 12 at the JC and maybe 9 at Eastern, and that has grown the first semester. So now that has grown. We now have, I believe, 19 teachers attending, or potential teachers, paraprofessionals attending the JC, and I think we have roughly 17 attending Eastern. And so we're hoping to get those that are attending Eastern closer to graduating so we can, we can take them on as our own. And most of them are paras in our classroom acting as the classroom teacher. And so they're pretty much on the job training, I guess you could say, really. And so, yeah, that's what I've been up to for the last 7 months.
So one of the other key functions is employee relations and compliance. Obviously, you as a board create school board policy. We, as district office, HR, we've got to make sure that we comply with those. And I would love to say that every employee every day complies with every policy, but it just doesn't happen like that sometimes. Compensation and benefits. So one of the big things that runs out of HR is health insurance, FMLA. And so we've gotten a really good group of individuals working in the department now that are very knowledgeable about those things. They can answer those questions. So like when people call me, I'm like, hey, let me help you out. I can answer that question for you. I just refer them on to who takes care of the benefits, and it gets answered. Professional development, Ms. Engel touched on it a little bit with the new teacher focus. Next year, our NTO will be called New Eagle Orientation. So NEO instead of NTO.
Neo.
So, but along with that, one of the things that you guys allow us to do that not a lot of districts I know I've never seen one in Texas, Mr. Young, that, that offer to pay for a master's program for their employees, which I know is something that we have a lot of our employees taking advantage of, which is good for us when it comes to TCI and trying to get money back on that end when we can move them to a level 3. And so that benefits us by allowing them to go get their master's.
And when I'm doing recruiting fairs, that's on our banner and it's also on our table and in our brochure. And that's like the number one thing that people come and ask me about. You will pay for my master's? You'll pay for me to go back to school and get my master's? Absolutely, we will. And so I know we did hire a teacher in January that is already inquiring about that. And that's what caught his eye. So it's a good thing. It's a really good thing.
Obviously, we have to take care of licensure and certification, which is a huge undertaking. As many certified staff that we have, we end up doing what we call licensure labs every year. Right now is the time that we're doing those. And again, going back to being service centered, because not all employees think about their license, when they're due or when they're up for renewal. So that's one of the functions that we have that's a big undertaking here in the early spring to make sure we get all those individuals renewed. Obviously, substitutes and classified staff, very important parts of the workings of the school. I tell our substitutes, well, I used to, I don't do this training anymore, but when I did, that they are valuable. And because if they don't show up and we have teachers out, we have classes that are not being covered. So the jobs that they do are very difficult. And so for them coming in and doing those substitute jobs is just a great thing. And then our classified staff, our support staff, from our secretaries to our nutritional services, our custodians, our maintenance folks. And so just making sure we get good quality people in those positions is important. Obviously, we keep employee personnel files. And we maintain just different information that as we go along that either state required or PED required. And then obviously we work along with the operations department to ensure workplace safety and employee support. So those are some of the key functions. Department structure, just so you know who we have in the department. And really, I should have flipped it around because I belong on the bottom, because everybody below right now is a lot more important than I am. I'm just going to tell you. But we have structurally right now an assistant superintendent, deputy superintendent with Ms. Engel. We have an HR specialist that just focuses on the benefits. Along with that, deals with our third party, what we call CBA, for any insurance needs there. She also deals with FMLA. And so you start thinking about, we have 1,500 employees. We got a lot of things going on there with benefits. And then we have a certified specialist who focuses on just teachers and other certified staff that will do all the onboarding, make sure all the paperwork's put in, and then helps and assists with making sure credentials are up to date. Then we have the classified specialist who deals with our classified personnel. So shouldn't say any person that doesn't have a license, because that's not correct. She does deal with our paraprofessionals. So that's the one license group that she'll deal with, but she'll also deal with nutritional services. One of the other things that that position is now done and undertaken is our student workers. So with CTEC, we get student workers all the time that we have to do the paperwork for those kids also. And so she takes care of all of that for our student workers. And then licensure and substitutes, we kind of blended that one together. It's pretty overwhelming, or can be, just because every day dealing with substitutes and bringing them on and, doing those kind of things, and then dealing with the licensure. So there's enough work there to keep that person busy from 7:30 to 4:30 every day. And then we have the Title II Administrative Assistant who does a lot of work, I know, with Miss Engel in regards to Title II, if you're not familiar with our teacher training and principal training. So roles and responsibilities, we kind of, these are just some highlighted things. I mean, there's things that'll come up day to day that will bleed over into one job or the other. But just highlights for myself, you know, just working with district leadership on strategic initiatives, staffing and budgeting, getting with principals and other department heads to address staffing needs, hiring and staffing again, employee handbook and procedures, assisting with the NOVA reporting, which used to be STARS, and now it's called NOVA. It's with the state reporting, personnel investigations, and then assisting district leadership with professional growth plans and FICAs. Right now, and again, these roles blend. Ms. Engel is with hiring and staffing is a huge focus for her. Recruitment by attending job fairs, assisting with retention of staff. And I think a lot of that is building those relationships that Ms. Engel has started to do. The Grow Your Own program, we've touched on that. And then our new teacher orientation, and I'm sorry, Mr. Strickland, I on my notes here, I put New Eagle orientation. I didn't get it on the actual one.
You got time.
Okay. And then
Okay,
she
we'll have
assists
new
with
employee orientation,
Yeah.
so, you know.
And then she assists with professional development. I know she works with Mr. Cantu's department, with Miss Rozier's department, and just trying to get those things going for professional development opportunities for our teachers and our other staff. And then again, going into the benefits for our HR specialist, she again manages benefits with health insurance and retirement plans, open enrollment for our third parties fixing to come up. So she's been working on that, our FMLA and leave policies. Then our certified, again, handling onboarding and those kinds of things. And then classified, the onboarding of the classified. The one thing that she also does is manages service awards in the retirement team, or retirement party for our retirees, which we hope not to have too many, but it tends to happen from time to time. And then licensure and substitutes, again, is pretty self-explanatory. And then I wanted to touch again with the Title II administrative assistant. We actually shared that person with Ms. Rozier as a bilingual secretary too. So she's got a dual role. And so she has to change hats from time to time. She always has to come and tell us, I got to go upstairs and see Ms. Rozier. Okay, well, just make sure you get back and do what we need you to do. No, I'm just kidding. But she handles all the requisitions and travel arrangements for the department. And she'll assist with scheduling professional development. I know one of the areas that she's really been working with is with Eastern New Mexico and NMJC, where she's kind of created contacts there as she's trying to get bills paid for the Grow Your Own and even our master's program. Okay. I know I ran through that fairly quickly. What questions do you guys have for us?
Questions, comments?
No, but thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Comment I have is, thank you both. Of course, what you do, it's a hard job. We've got a lot of employees, got a lot of vacancies to fill, so they're recruiting for sure, but you got to change the name to Grow Your Own with the current status of the certain things that are good for sale in this town. So you got to figure out a new name.
That's true.
Yes, but
We can come up with something.
y'all can come up with a new name for Grow Your Own.
Okay.
Other than that, thank y'all so much for what you do. I know it's challenging, you know, and that's one thing we've talked about before. We actually talked about it when we were in Santa Fe. You know, we pay good. The schools pay, you know, you talk to teachers at other, I've got family members and teachers in Texas and other cities. They find out what our teachers make and they're like, wow, You know, we really pay good, but we live in an oil and gas economy, and they pay really, really good. So when you're trying to trying to recruit a teacher out of college, first year, level one, what they make, trying to live on the economy here, it's tough. So, so thank you, but I know it's tough, but thank you for what you do.
And Terry, I just want to say that the retention rate with the grow your own is better. Because that had always been a problem. So I mean, like you said, now we got to pay. Hobbs is not the most exciting place in the world, but now, I'm a hometown girl, I think Hobbs is just fine,
Yeah.
but not everybody in the world thinks that, you know what I mean, well, I think for casino and a few other things, but you know what I mean, when some people come here, they looking for a different type of atmosphere. But one thing we can say that if you're trying to get your children here and get a good education, or some recognize it and see it and stay. Appreciate all the work.
Mr. President, I want to add one other thing to that recruitment piece. We had some conversations just this week, and then I actually had some conversations with our district coalition today about what's recruitment look like for in-service teachers. So folks that are already in the classrooms somewhere else. So what do those efforts look like? And so I'll be sharing with you all some of that strategy as we're working through that. I got some things from Ms. Engel today and beginning to work through what that looks like to be able to go and attract teachers in other areas, just as you said, Mr. O'Brien, to Hobbs to be in our classrooms in front of our kids. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Part we've all been waiting for, Mr. John, operation.
Oh. Mr. President, members of the board, I apologize. I didn't know Mr. Byrd had finally finished. Good job.
Until next month.
So I have for you the updates for current projects. I want to start with new middle school projects. I did add some notes to this today, but know that PSCLC did approve our early work package, which includes the construction of Calle Grande Road with utilities and site work on the new building site. We did our design review with PSFA last Monday on the 17th, and they have basically signed off on our design. And bid packages have gone out. They actually went out before our meeting with PSFA with our general contractor, Bradbury Stam. Those bids are due from subcontractors on Thursday. So we will be meeting with Bradbury to start going over those bids together. We will try to come to a final conclusion on the guaranteed maximum price. We have a meeting with them on the 12th, and then formally submit our GMPs to PSFA by March the 14th. Just some important dates. PSCLC will meet in subcommittee on April the 2nd, and in full committee on April the 9th to hopefully approve the GMP and to adjust any splits that may be required for these projects as far as any additional funding from the original MOU that was established with the council. I have a link here that is going to kind of give you a flyby overview of the new school, as well as the interior of the new school that Park Hill put together. This is, if you'll pause it real quick, Terry. You went all the way to the end. So what it's going to show you is after those meetings with department leaders, with the community members, This is the pretty much final design. Now, what you'll see in furniture, that is not. We haven't even discussed furniture yet. But as far as the layout of the building, the way those classrooms are going to kind of look, one thing that's kind of unique to this building that the committee was really adamant about were collaborative spaces within our different grade level wings. That as you go through those hallways, there are collaborative spaces, so an extension of classroom space that goes out into those hallways. There are wide hallways. The restrooms are set just for the business end. And then when they come out of the restrooms, the wash stations, water stations are in the hallways where cameras and adults can monitor those areas. You'll see some spaces like the library and those hallways, those interior hallways with high ceilings, lots of light, lots of natural light that flow through the building. But we'll kind of walk through it as we go through it. So this is the exterior, and these are the colors. Oh, she went to the end again.
Give me a hint.
So this is kind of the west side of the building where the stadium and track will be. Kind of circle around to the front of the building where the main parent drop-off areas are located and the main entrance to the school. As we go around to the east side, that first overhang is the 8th grade wing on top and our special ed wing on the bottom. And then on the second wing is the 6th and 7th, or I'm sorry, that was 6th and special, 7th and 8th grade wings. Coming around the north side, cafeteria outdoor area. We'll see more of that here in a minute. And the gymnasiums. And then the athletic areas. Coming in through the front of the building, front entrance. As you come in, the administration's to the left, SRO to the right. Those are secure vestibules. And then the main entryway that leads to the library and common areas of the school. There's engineering labs on the left there. And then into the commons, there is a fold down door that goes over that commons area that separates the noise from the cafeteria to those academic wings when people are in the commons area. You have a performing arts area. This is the look from the cafeteria into the main competition gym. That's the hallway looking outside the gym area. Kind of see the acousticals up in the ceiling areas. Going into the library from the main corridor. Outside that library is also an outdoor reading area as well. This is a main corridor going into the classroom areas. You see the collaboration spaces there. That's a classroom wing, one of our grade levels. Outside the cafeteria, outdoor eating area, social space for the kids, as well as basketball and play courts outdoors as well. This is coming back out of the main entrance. We won't have the skateboarder there, but it just kind of gives you a big picture of the new middle school. We proposed to PSCOC. So any questions on that?
How long is it, when is it gonna be built?
We'll start dirt work. The early dirt work will start in mid to late April for Calle Grande Road, and the dirt work on the new middle school, Heiser, will begin as soon as school's out in May. So,
In time?
same time. There's about a month separation, maybe 2 months, depending on supplies, separation between the two schools during construction. We anticipate opening both campuses fall of 2027. Gonna be fun, Mr. Calderon.
Lakeland knows.
So if there's no questions on that, I'll just keep going on the projects.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That was, and, we talked to people at, different boards and stuff. It's a big deal building a junior high. That don't happen a whole lot around. There's not a whole lot of new junior highs being built. You got an elementary, maybe somebody out of high school, but, not a lot of schools add junior high, so it's a big deal.
We get 2 of them.
We get our money's worth.
So moving on, College Lane is pretty much wrapping up. What we lack over there is the front, tying in that front parking lot to the actual street of College Lane. In consultation with the city of Hobbs, you know, College Lane in the front of it's always been parking area. Anything south of that new parking lot is not a parking area. That is the street of College Lane. And so once we tie that in, there are still utility poles that run through there, and those will remain there until the city actually does the final expansion of College Lane. So working with the city, and the city has been awesome about this, we will put up safe hits on that new area, and that will block off that new place so that people don't think that that's a right lane on the street or a parking area and somebody crashes into a parked car or those utility poles. So, but that will go ahead and be tied in, and that will complete our portion with the city of Hobbs. Some things that are not on here that I wanted to let you know about as well. On the west side of College Lane, we did a temporary parking area for staff, realizing that that parking is going to be needed when we have large events there, because that front is no longer available. And so we are going to pave that. It will be a permanent staff parking area for College Lane, and try to give visitors as much access to the easier access points of College Lane as possible. Additionally, on the East Street, where the new turnaround is, to the north of that, we are adding a elevated crosswalk in order to get our kids safely across that street into the new neighborhood that's been built to the east of College Lane. So we will be able to walk our kids up the north side of that and then cross them safely after the cars have already done their turnaround. That way they're not going through traffic at dismissal time. It should be a good, safe area for kids to be able to get to houses for our walkers. Intercom, we're still, that thing's been going on to the point where we're having to get new quotes. We've got them from Cypress. We're waiting on Kirkmeyer to get us theirs. Will Rogers, we were scheduled to put the new electrical panels in over President's Day. However, although all of our supplies were received, Excel did not get all of theirs. So that's been pushed back to spring break, and Excel hopefully will have all of their supplies so that we can do that change out at Will Rogers over spring break. Other things, security vestibules, those upgrades have started. We received those doors for those campuses to have secure entrances into the offices. And now it's just a matter of getting the rest of the hardware to be able to electronically be able to gain access into those office areas. Stone and Coronado playgrounds have been completed. Tennis court wall, when I wrote this, was not done. It is now done. So it looks really good. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it. It's really nice. We're working on trying to replace 2 of our practice fields across the street. We've gotten the quote for the scraping and getting rid of. Now we're just waiting to see It's actually going to take to either sod it or hydroseed it and overseed it. We're waiting on that as well. Capital outlay requests went out last week, and so those are being gathered. These are furniture requests, carpet requests, paint, things like that that campuses are requesting. And then it's time for our 5-year facility master plan again. That application has been submitted to PSCOC, and that will also be acted on their April meeting. Once we got approval from PSCOC, we will hire an outside architect firm to help us conduct that facility master plan, in which we will also be reaching back out to our FAC committee and to our community members on those who want to serve on that. Operations.
Questions, comments?
Have none.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Appreciate it.
Good.
Word again, business.
President, members of the board. So your consideration for concurrence, there's A, B, and C, consideration of expenditures for the month, consideration of our short-term investment. I had one consideration for a bar, which was rural and low-income schools that we received an increase.
The board has had their packet for a couple of days to review the expenditures, investments, and that bar. I trust if you had any questions or concerns, to address those with Mr. Byrd. Anybody have anything at this time?
I make a motion that we approve the expenditures, investments in bar.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the expenditures, investments, and the one bar. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have from Accounting and Financial Solutions, Ms. Terry Ogle, here to present our audit from fiscal year 24, school year 23-24. And I don't know if I see Wade online or not, or if he's letting you fly solo.
He may be there, but he'll be listening.
But welcome. Oh, is he here? Hey, Wade.
I'm Terry Ogle and I'm Accounting and Financial Solutions, and my partner is William King, and he's online.
Lurking, huh? He's lurking.
Yes. And we're gonna go over your audit report tonight for the 2023-24 school year. And so if you'll turn to page 3 of the audit report, which is the first, it's the yellow colored pages. And on page 3, the first paragraph is the what the opinion is on, and the second paragraph is the actual opinion. And so it basically tells you that we believe the financial statements are not materially misstated. So we can't give a full clean opinion because you don't do 100%, but we do give an opinion that the material there is not materially misstated. That means that it's an unmodified opinion with no qualifications or modifications. It is the best opinion that you can get. And it is written by the AICPA, so it's pretty consistently the same for anybody with an unmodified opinion. There is an emphasis of matters paragraph in the opinion, and we'll get into the restatement here in just a few minutes, and it has to do with the GASB 84 requirements that happened, and then so we'll get into that here whenever I get to the restatement. Then it talks about management's responsibilities on page 4, and then the auditor's responsibilities on page 5, and then we get into the in relation to portion of the opinion, which is the net pension liability and the OPEB liability to start with. And that's the required supplemental information. So I'll be sure and point that out when we get to it. And then the next page is the supplementary information, and it is an in relation to opinion, and it's on the top of page 5. And that's the combining statements that are in the back. And so as I'm going through, I'll kind of try to point out which is which. Okay. So the first page, and this is the opinion part of the first opinion part is on page 8. And it is the government-wide financial statements. And these financial statements are as if you were a full for-profit business. It has all of your assets, all of your liabilities, everything's in it. So that you have something that you can look at that would show if you were a for-profit business. In the financial statements, you can tell that you have $52 million in cash and $10 million in investments. And then there's some receivables, taxes, intergovernmental loans, and other receivables. The intergovernmental loans are usually loans coming from Department of Education, and they offset your deficit cash balances closely. Then you have your supplemental inventory, your supply inventory, and your food inventory. And then we get into your non-current assets, which is your capital assets and your right-of-use assets. And right-of-use assets is new. It has to do with the subscriptions. All school districts use subscriptions, and so everybody says, well, we pay for it yearly. And GASB came out and said that they really want to know how many subscriptions people are using because it's an asset that you're going to continue to use. So there are some subscriptions. I think you have about 6 of them up there, and they amortize. And so along with those assets, there's also a liability that goes with them. And so I'll try to point that out as we're going through this, but they almost offset. So then we're going to go to page 9. And these show your liabilities. So on here, you see the current portion of this subscription obligation at $283,000. And then you have your subscription obligation of $1.067 million. And the reason why I point that out is because it's mostly the new item on your financial statements for you. Then we're going to go on to the statement of activities. And the statement of activities is your full accrual financial statements. It would be a profit and loss if you were a for-profit business. Except in a government, it just looks a little bit odd. The expenses are the first column, and then the rest of the financial statements is all income. So all of those columns to the right, that's all income being allocated in different ways. And so you have your charges for services, your operating grants, and your capital contributions. And then you have your general services. They're not allocated to those. Your next financial statement is the governmental funds. And so that's on page 11. And to be a governmental fund, major program, you have to be 10% of the assets, liabilities, revenue, or expenses in your financial statements. So these are your larger funds when they're here, and they change every year, depending on what's going on in each fund. They may or may not change. So 11 and 12 are your major funds, and the other governmental funds, which is on 12, are the funds that are in the back of the financial statements. And those are the combining statements that we're going to see. And those are the ones that are in relation to financial statements. Then there's a reconciliation on page 13. So if you look on page 12 down at the bottom, you can see the $61 million down at the bottom, second number from the bottom. And that $61 million is the fund financial statements total. And then we reconcile you on page 13 with all of these assets and liabilities to get you to your full accrual government-wide financial statements. So when you're wondering what in the world we did, it's all right here. It's reconciled for you. Then we're going to go on to the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund balance. And this is also by major fund, the same major funds. And so we're going to Also, this also is in accordance with what you normally see, probably pretty close when you're looking at fund financial statements. But we're gonna reconcile for what we added and subtracted to get you to your statement of activities. So if you see down at the bottom on page 15, not quite the bottom, about 5 from the bottom, the $2.9 million, that's where we're gonna start. And so if you go to page 16, you see that at the top. And these are the things we added and subtracted to get you to your full financial statements. Then you have your general fund budget to actuals, and that is cash basis. So that is what you would see if you're looking at your financial statements. Then on page 19, you do have some fiduciary funds. And this was the GASB, this is where the GASB 84 comes in. Is you have some fiduciary funds, and GASB 84 came in to effect. And GASB said that they wanted everybody to start reporting everything the same. So they gave everybody a bunch of lists of stuff to follow. And that decides whether you're a special revenue fund or a fiduciary fund. You do have a couple of special purpose trust funds, which are scholarship funds, and then you have a couple of custodial funds, but for the most part, all the student activity funds, because the board does have authority over those to say, no, you're not going to do that with those funds. Those move over to the special revenue fund. So that's how that happened. So there is a restatement on page 20 of $533,000. And it's not anything big. It just moved from one place to another. Okay, so now I'm going to skip on back to page. And I'm going to go over the items that you don't see a lot of. So I was going to go over your capital assets, which is on page 38. Page 38, we start with what was in the audit report from the prior auditor. And then we give you a bunch of information that goes with that. So you had a beginning balance. Wish I would have told you ahead of time. Wait, go up just a little bit. Right there. So you have your beginning balance. That was the prior auditor's balance. And then there was a slight error in the prior auditor's information. When we were reviewing their stuff, we were tying to the district's detailed capital assets, and the district's capital assets didn't tie to what was there. And so we got to investigating, and we found that there was an adjusting entry that was not reversed. Basically, the payables or the accruals for 2022 was not reversed. And so your assets last year was overstated. So you have your beginning balance, you have a restatement, and then the beginning balance again. So that's part of your restatement, and we'll get to the restatement where you'll see where that is. And then your right of use assets is next. So right on the bottom of that page is your right of use assets. And you have assets coming on the books, and what happens with that is we get a present value, a life of those assets, the subscriptions, how long the school decides that they're going to use them. And then we net present value that value for every payment. And you have $1.6 million in subscriptions that you're planning on paying out over the next life of that subscription. And we amortize that over the life of the subscription. So the net effect of your subscriptions is the asset portion is the $1.4 million. The next thing we do on the next page, on page 39 at the very bottom, is the obligation that goes with that. And so you can see a little more detail on what subscriptions you have. You have 6 subscriptions. And so again, the original value of that was the $1.6 million. The interest rate was calculated at 5%. It's amortizing, so the ending balance was $1.3 million. and we give you a 5-year maturity on that. You guys are welcome to ask me questions if you have them, because this is a lot of information. The next page is your general obligation bonds, which probably isn't quite as unusual. But the general obligation bonds, you did have one more bond issue, so you see the detail there. You see the original value, the amount that's due as of the end of the year, and how much it was the current portion. And then we give you a 5-year maturity. And then you have some in-substance defeasance. One of the bond issues, the 2024, was part of it was a defeasance. So the defeasance, because it's a defeasance, which means that you put the money in the bank, but they haven't been called yet, so they're still out there. So that's why that footnote has to be there. And it is a footnote. It's not included in the debt up here. It's just a footnote. So then you have your bonds and notes on page 41. And this is a detail of all of your liabilities for the whole district. It gives you the beginning balance, additions, retirements, adjustments, and ending balance and current portion. So you have some idea of what's going on in those. And then we reconcile your bond issue at the bottom of the page. We reconcile your bond issue back to the financial statements, so that you can find it on the face of the financial statements. And then because interest payable is very entertaining, and we get a lot of questions on the interest payable, we also put you a little footnote in there so that you know how much was Savita's, which is subscription-based IT agreements, and how much is your GEO bonds. And that's kind of that for the footnotes. And I was going to skip back here to page 58. And 58 is the second portion of the in relation to opinion. It's the required supplemental information. GASB said that with the lease of the net pension liability and the OPEB liability, it's going to fluctuate a whole lot. So they wanted a 10-year reporting. So I'm going to just really quickly go over the 10-year reporting and the information that you can get from this without too much heartache. As you can see, the first page has 10 years on it in each table, and that's because it's been in effect for 10 years now. In 2014, the district's portion of the net pension liability compared to the rest of the state was 1.45%. And Hobbs School District's net pension liability portion as of 2023 was 1.94. So you can see that your portion to the rest of the state is increasing just a little bit. That's because your payroll is going up. You were just talking about how well you pay your employees, and that proves it. Okay, so then the next column is the net pension liability. And so the district started with $83 million in net pension liability in 2014, and in 2016, the district's net pension liability is $169 million. When I talk about this number, this is not a number that you're going to actually pay off. It is a state liability. It's just the portion of employees that you have. Then you have your covered payroll. So these are the people who are paid and you're paying in on. So in 2014, you started with covered payroll of 40 million, and in 2023, you had $75 million in covered payroll. So the next table does the same thing, except it shows how much you're supposed to pay in. And they're increasing the district's portion. So you went from 13.89% in 2015, and in 2024 you paid 18.15. So that's basically what that's telling you, just so you have some idea. And the next one is the OPEB liability. It's not as long, does the same thing. So I'm not gonna go over it in as much detail unless you just want me to. So now we're gonna go on back to the next opinion, which is on page. Oh, I have to go back. I forgot to do the restatement. Sorry. The restatement is on page 56. The restatement has a new requirement. We had to get a whole bunch of new information on it. So a detail of the restatement is listed above the restatement, but it does talk about the capital assets and which funds it affects. And it also, and then you have the restatement on the custodial funds, and you can see that it's basically from one place to another. Okay, now we'll go back to the next opinion. The next opinion is on page 126. So in your thing, it's going to be like 11 pages after that. So 130.
What page in the book again, Terry?
126. 127, sorry. Keep going. You're not there yet. Okay, 2 more pages. There you go. So this is the opinion on government auditing standards. We give you 3 opinions, and this is the second one. Government auditing standards has 2 portions to its opinion, or 3. The first portion is a report on internal controls over financial reporting, and it's a good, clean opinion, no findings. And it talks about material weaknesses and significant deficiencies, and it gives you a definition of those items, and you do not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. The next part of that opinion is on page 128 at the top. And it comes with 2 parts. The first is on government auditing standards, on compliance and other matters. So the compliance portion on government auditing standards is a clean opinion. There's no issues with your government auditing standards. And the second part is the requirements, that is the New Mexico requirements. And so there was 2 small findings for government auditings for compliance with state requirements. And we'll go over those in just a minute. The next opinion is on page 129. And it is on your uniform guidance, which is your federal awards. In federal awards, there's 2 parts. The first part is on compliance with each major program, and there's no findings in your compliance with each major program. The second part of that opinion is reporting on internal controls over compliance, and there's no findings in internal controls over government, over internal controls over compliance. The next page is on 132 and 133. And this is your schedule of federal expenditures. And the funds have to be expended to be on this report. And it's how much federal money you spent. So in total, Hobbs School District spent $16 million in federal funds. And you can see which programs you were running, how much was spent in each one according to the CFDA numbers. The next page is the footnotes to that, and what this tells you is which programs were tested. So you were considered a low-risk auditee, and so we were required to test at least 20% of the federal programs, and we actually tested 36% of the federal programs, and we tested student support and academic enrichment program, your IDEA B special ed cluster, and the CARES program. Then your next page that's important to you is on page 136. One more. And this is a summary of findings and question costs. And it basically sums up everything in this report so that tomorrow when you're trying to remember what all I said, this basically sums it up for you. And it says that you have an unmodified opinion. You have no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no non-compliance material to your financial statements. In your federal awards, you have no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no question costs. It again tells you which programs we tested for federal awards. And it tells you that the difference between a type A program and a type B program is $750,000. And it does tell you that you are a low risk auditee, which means that you didn't have any in the last 2 years. Then in the state of New Mexico requirements, you have, it says in internal controls over state requirements, you have 2 findings that are considered to be other non-compliance. And then in the section for other matters, you have 0 findings. And then at the bottom of that page, you see your section for financial statement findings, and there are no findings in the financial statement findings. And in the section for audit findings for major federal awards, there are no findings for, I have to say this so that you know that I'm. And then in section 4, which is the state requirements, you have 1 finding that is the reporting requirements for Fund 21-100. And so I'm going to say that this was new. Last year, the state of New Mexico started sending money for this little program for cafeteria, and all of the revenue went into the cafeteria fund. And that's where the finding happened, because the state said we want it put in instead of 2100, we want it put in 21-100. And it didn't get caught, and so it was reported in 21,000. And it's just a reporting requirement, and we're just letting you know that it was just in the wrong place. Do you want to say anything?
I appreciate that clarification. And I think the one thing to point out is with that being a new fund to the state of New Mexico, it'll be interesting to talk to other superintendents and see if that same thing was made. Trying to identify when we built that budget. Maybe that was before we knew that fund, maybe before the award letter. But the reality is every single dollar was spent on what it was intended, which was on food service and to the benefit of children. So in terms of a keystroke being a 1 instead of a 0, or vice versa, 0 instead of a 1, absolutely.
Yep, it was a common thing. The next finding is missing background checks. We reviewed 37 personnel files, and there were 6 missing background checks. And there's a couple of reasons why this can happen. The first one is we discovered that you were in the process of moving from paper to getting everything in Skyward. And so I'm just going to say that it's happened in a lot of schools, and it happens that sometimes they scanned it in and it maybe didn't post where it was supposed to. Can't tell you. But the reason why this finding is here is because the most important thing in every school district is the care of children. And so we're just letting you know that there was a small issue in this, and it's just a small thing. Did you want to speak to that?
And I'll add to that as well. Every time we get a new auditor, we appreciate the fresh set of eyes, and we absolutely appreciate what you all have done in terms of really examining our practices. After discovering that area in working with Mr. Bird and HR, we've gone through and done that for every single file, not just the 37 that they reviewed. And so we do believe it dates back a number of years in terms of when those were not found. We do not believe for one second that individuals were in front of children without that being done. It just wasn't filed as part of that employee file that it was complete. So that process, HR staff may have reviewed the file digitally, cleared, moved them on forward in the hiring process. Because again, we still are not allowed to place individuals in front of kids before that background check completes. So,
There was also a little caveat that happened that the state of New Mexico was going along with one person that was doing the background checks. Somebody reviewed it. They went, I'll print that later.
Yep.
And then the state of New Mexico changed vendors. And so all of those background checks were not printed and gone. You couldn't get to it. So that's the extent of that. Okay, so the next one is your prior year findings. You did not have any. So it's a good clean, that was a good clean opinion and yay. And that's the end of the report. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Questions from Ms. Ogle?
No. Thank you for your work. It's thorough. And my head is spinning.
Well, it's numbers.
I tend to like numbers when you're adding or subtracting. But these are special.
They're really good numbers. You guys have some really good numbers, and it was a pleasure working with your staff. They were wonderful to work with. They worked really hard, and I can tell you that they worked really hard trying to find background checks because they were somewhere. And
So have we started to audit for next year yet?
and I'll say to that, I mean, our process that we currently engage in, that we have engaged in for a number of years, what we found in those, that does not match our current process. They do predate a number of years.
And there is a time when they grandfathered in. There are 3 or 4 different sections for background check laws that we adhere to, because there was a time when schools didn't keep them and you just used PEDS. And then there was a time when you didn't have to have one at all. So you could actually, because you have long-term employees, you could have some of those. And we consider those. We grandfather in those. So all of that is considered. Probably not by you, but they are considered by us.
President, members of the board, I'd like to thank Terry and Wade. I know Wade's listening. Terry, thank you for coming tonight. Going through, because numbers, time can be cumbersome. I want to thank you and Wade for your professionalism and being patient with us as we had some change in our department. And so we were trying to figure things out. And I know anytime that we picked up the phone to call, they always answered, and really makes our lives a lot easier. And now that they've done it, they can expect us to be calling them quite a bit.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those comments. Thank you so much for coming. I know you traveled a long way to Farmington, correct?
Yes, sir.
Across the state. So thank you for coming, and we do appreciate the honesty and the transparency. That's one thing with us. We want to be transparent with public funds and know that we're being stewards of those funds and get up with those. So I do appreciate it. Appreciate the professionalism and ready for next year.
Thank you. Good day.
Thanks, Terry. Mr. President, a reminder, while the state of New Mexico does not require our board to adopt or approve our audit, because this audit has already gone to the state auditor, they have approved our audit and accepted it. Interestingly enough, in the state of New Mexico, our local elected bodies are not required to approve our audit. However, this board has a long-standing tradition of taking official action on our audit, codify our behaviors in terms of that transparency relates to public dollars. We are seeking a motion.
I take a motion for consideration of the 2023-2024 audit.
I move. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thanks. Next item, the, Calderon Scholarship.
Yeah, I can speak to it, Mr. President, members of the board. As we do for a number of it, funds and scholarship funds in our state, and Terry reported to some of that scholarship fund that we do maintain. The Lisa Calderon family is seeking that we transfer those monies in that scholarship account of $2,035 to them to be managed privately by them in their own accounting records.
This Calderon, the Memorial Scholarship, I appreciate the Calderon family for having that scholarship at her name. She was a great lady. My kids, I had her in school, tremendous educator. She is truly missed, and having the Memorial Scholarship at her name definitely means a lot. So I hope and I appreciate the family continuing on the stewardship of that scholarship. Saying that, I would seek a motion to approve the release of the Calderon Memorial Scholarship funds to the Calderon family. A motion and a second. All for?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Budget
The only
report.
informational item I have after that is the monthly budget report.
I'd like for you to go through that line item by line.
I can certainly do that.
Thank you, Mr. Berg. Appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man with HR and the business office. We appreciate it.
Mr. President, members of the board, one thing I would like to mention before we move on to my section. We are in the early stages of budget prep season for 25-26 school year. And so from this body, we have maintained at least 2 members to sit on that budget committee. So we will let us know who those 2 members are so that we can add you to that calendar invite and get you added to the schedule. With that, Mr. President, I'd like to move on to legislative update. I have a number of things to share, not as many as we did last time in terms of bills. It's been an active session. Today, they are wrapping up day 35 of a 60-day session. So they're just over halfway done. Prior to the final date of filing bills, there were over 1,200 bills filed in this legislative session. As a reminder, those bills go to the floor to be assigned to committee. They go through a committee at least, maybe multiple committees before coming back to that body of senator or representative. Once approved there, they go to the other side and start that process all over. So we do know that even at day 35, both the House and the Senate have heard bills that have made it through committees on their side of the Capitol to be able to ratify those and move those to the other side of the House. To date, there's not been a single bill in 35 days that has made it through both bodies. It will be a busy 26 days or 25 days now as they begin to work through the remainder of those bills that they have time to consider. A couple to consider, one that we pay attention to every year, whether it's a 60-day or a 30-day session, is House Bill 2, and that is the state's budget. That's where the budget is built, is in that piece of legislation every year. And so public school support is what the line item is called, is where our state equalization guarantee lives and where our funds, as Terry shared a number of items. Today, House Bill 2 was heard on the House floor after being heard in House Appropriations and Finance and various subcommittees. And so to my knowledge, House Bill 2 did pass the House today and will be on schedule in the Senate beginning tomorrow to begin process there. We anticipate it starting somewhere in Senate Finance, maybe a subcommittee in Senate Finance, before they make adjustments to the budget. Then it goes back to the Senate for vote. If they make changes to that budget, the House has to concur before they have an approved budget. They have time to do that. Like I said, they have 25 days left to do that. And fortunately, the 3 agencies that prepare budgets were really close in their numbers. What we know is in that budget right now is a 4% raise for all state employees. So that translates to currently, as that budget is drafted, the House is in support of a 4% raise for all public school staff, which we're definitely in support of. One bill that's troubling to me, not because I disagree with the purpose, I disagree with the mechanism, and a number of entities disagree with it. So that bill is called House Bill 11. And a little bit of context is we as an employer are required to participate in Family Medical Leave Act, the Federal Family Medical Leave Act. Short term is FMLA. We participate in that, and we wholeheartedly support staff who desire or need to take up to 12 weeks of leave away from their job to take care of family matters. House Bill 11, what it proposes is for every employer that has at least 5 employees, they will participate in House Bill 11, the Paid Family Medical Leave Act. Every employee of those employers of 5 employees or more will participate in the Paid Family Medical Leave Act. The way that works out is for every dollar that is paid out in salary, 4% of that goes into a fund. Not allowed to opt out. You're not allowed to say, I want to do 5%, I want to do 2%. Every employer in the state of New Mexico on Paid Family Medical Leave Act, if it were to become law, the employers are responsible for paying 4% of their total salary in budget to that fund. Every employee is responsible for paying 1% of their salary to that fund. The difficulty that I have with that is we may have a dozen employees a year as a school district that participate in FMLA. What I would like to have option of is allowing us to provide short-term disability to our employees at our cost. It reduces and removes the burden to all of our employees, to our 1,500 employees, but also removes that burden to our operating salary as well, or our operating budget as well.
They won't let us do that.
If this bill were to pass, no, ma'am, they would not allow us to do that. We will be required to pay 4% of our total salaries to the fund. Every employee will be required to pay 1%. It's been said that this bill is the largest tax increase in history of New Mexico that will be borne by every employee of our state. That will be borne by every employer of our state with employees greater than 5. The interesting thing is, I can't tell you how many people are going to participate to know how much money that is, if it's enough or it's not enough. I worry about the bureaucratic process involved by applying for paid family medical leave because it takes that local authority away from us to say, hey, we know the circumstance of that employee and we're willing to work with that employee. And as an effort of taking care of that employee, we want to provide short-term disability for up to 12 weeks for that employee. That's something we have access to within, as Mr. Bird was saying, our third-party benefits agreement. We can figure something out. Unfortunately, House Bill 11, in the event it were to become law, every single employee in the state of New Mexico who works for someone greater than 5 employees will participate 1% of their salary. They will be taxed 1% of their salary to this fund. Every employer will be taxed 4% of their operating budget tied to salary. So it becomes a 5% tax on salary to pay into a fund that a very small percentage of employees participate in or need. So number of superintendents, number of employers, and a number of employees have concerns with this because they would prefer to have that take-home money available to them to select their benefits as they would like. Number of bills that this board supported, which was the return to the State Board of Education, are making their way through both the House and the Senate. They are drafted as Senate and House memorials or joint resolutions, my apologies, as resolutions, which means that once the bodies, the House and the Senate, concur on what bill that they approve, because it's a resolution, it will go to the voters of New Mexico to concur. It will not go to the 4th floor for ratification at the governor's level. Again, various options in those bills. I think there's 3 actually that have give different possibilities in terms of that State Board of Education. I think it's clear to note that returning to a State Board of Education does not remove PED. PED will not go away. you will have to have that fiscal agent take care of a lot of the fiscal responsibilities that we have in New Mexico. That State Board of Education will provide for greater stability at that Secretary of Education. Because that State Board of Education, some of those options are 11, some of them are 15 out of those resolutions would select a state superintendent of education. That state superintendent of education would answer to that board, much like I answer to my board. That state secretary of education or state superintendent would be responsible for PED. But it would remove the politicization, I don't know if that's a word. So English teachers, I apologize if that isn't. The math guy's shaking his head no out there. Would remove the politics associated with whoever's on the fourth floor controls whoever that secretary of education is. So yet to be determined. We will see what the next 25 days bring. And as things crop up, I'll definitely share those with you. And as you have questions, please feel free to holler. Next item is a calendar update for 25-26. We're creeping up on the end of February, end of this week. We'll move into March. And this afternoon, or this morning and this afternoon, I was able to meet with our district coalition. And this coalition is formed by every campus in town as a representative, as well as departments in the district have a representative on that coalition. As you can imagine, we spent a significant amount of time on crafting a schedule, our calendar for next school year. We started with 5 draft options that literally were just draft options that I threw out there and said, look, pick them apart, do what you want to with them. With the goal of getting to 3 options to present to staff for a selection of a calendar. After a number of regurgitations and revisits, we threw out 3 options and we introduced 3 new ones. So we're back to 5, which is fine. The process works just like it's supposed to. We will get back together probably in the next 2 weeks to trim that down to 3 options and then be able to present that to our staff for selection of that calendar for 25-26. One thing that is holding true is the 183 instructional days and the 191 staff days. So simplest way to put it, find 183 days of instruction, find 8 additional days. The benefit to that is we've began to see, not only this year, but in our student achievement last year, the effect of sustained systemic professional learning occurring. The model of get everything up in the front and then we'll see you next year doesn't work. We know that. And so having sustained pieces of professional learning throughout the year allows us to build on skills that we've had the opportunity to practice. Those professional learning days, those 8 days of contract outside the classroom, we have 3 focuses. And those focuses are on teacher classroom time. What do they need time to do with personally, but also collaboratively as a team? What does their campus need of them? And what does the district need of them? So that's not always every single day a 30, a 33, and a third. It's not always a third balance. Some days it's heavier on the campus needs. Some days it's heavier on the district needs. Some days we've had 50% of that time devoted to classroom time. So it's always a balance of what those district needs are, being informed on how we're progressing and where we're moving as a district. So wanted to provide a calendar update to you. As it currently sits, we hope to have a calendar in front of you as a board at our March 25th board meeting for adoption for school year 25-26.
Questions on updates or calendars? Yeah, I may comment on updates on the legislative thing real quick. We were up there a couple of weeks ago at the Board Institute, talking to legislators, seeing what was, talking about different things, different bills. A lot of stuff out there, not just with education, other things that affect every one of us in our everyday lives. I know things that happen at the federal level, most certainly a lot are concerning. A lot are, have a rippling effects. But those state elections, local elections, local legislature things, things we do right here in this board, the city, county, at the state level do have a direct impact on our lives, on our community. So be involved. Talk to your legislators. If you see legislation you don't like, email them. They're right there on their website, their email, their contact information. And it does make a difference. If you reach out, you let your legislators know that, hey, I support this bill, I don't support this bill, and this is why. Sometimes they may not know. So they don't know what they don't know. So make sure you reach out to them. We have great legislators here fighting for our little corner of the world. Sometimes it seems like at that level we may get forgot about sometimes, except for during basketball season and when the oil revenues come in. But other than that, make sure they are up there and they are fighting hard and then trying to make sure that decisions made at the state level do benefit our city and our county and are overall good for the state. So make sure you reach out to those legislators and be involved in that process.
Announcements?
Announcements.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, I have for your announcements. Tomorrow, we will have parent-teacher conferences. And so staff will be in their buildings from 10 to 6, be able to meet with parents that can make it on their lunch hour or in the afternoon and the evening after they get off work. So there will be no students in school tomorrow. March the 7th begins the New Mexico State Basketball Tournament. And both our girls and boys teams are having really good years. We'll see how that follows up this weekend with the district championship, tournament championship, and then falling into seeding on Sunday. Spring break, we will have spring break March 17th to the 21st. And then we will have our regular board meeting here on March the 25th of 2025. One other announcement. I didn't realize this until just the other day. But Miss Terry Lopez celebrated her 42nd work anniversary on Sunday. She's worked for Hobbs Schools for 42 years. And I want to acknowledge that. Has not aged a day.
Oh, yeah.
But with that, I'd stand for questions.
Questions on announcements?
The comments I wanted to make. Oh, you got something?
No. Reminding you,
I don't want to get political and I don't want to go against board policy. But this is my 47th year teaching. About 30 for the Hobbs Schools. I was out for 5. A friend of mine, Jerry Thomas, as a favor, I went to Brumfield, Texas, and did 9 years. And Mr. Young has a way of twisting your arm, and I finally said yes after about an hour. Go to my little truck, and I called my wife and I said, I used the word pissed, but I'm saying, I really was mad. I said, did they not hire you? I said, no, I said yes. I was really mad because I said yes. Elgin, you have a way of doing things. December, Jerry Thomas comes over. They said, they want you to come back. And I said, it's in stone. No, I'm not coming back. 9 years later, I was still there. What I'm trying to make is, I'm not the smartest pencil in the box. And I had 2 classes of 22, 21 kids apiece, and our older group, I decided to take some kids to Santa Fe. Right? In 2 days in Hobbs, these are Hobbs people for the Brumfield, Texas kids. I raised $3,250 so those kids could be dressed. I ended up with 12. I told you I'm not the smartest pencil in the box. Then I didn't realize, because we never asked, are you legal or not? Do you have the papers or not? I'm just not that smart a person to ask. But anyway, we took pictures. It was Governor Martinez that talked to the kids about 45 minutes. We took pictures. And then we were doing Rosetta Stone because we didn't have really a migrant program when you were there, and we developed the program. So they gave us Rosetta Stone. And then we met once a month with the parents, and these are parents that really participate. And we Tuesdays and Thursdays, 5 to 9. Until 9, I go tell the parents, we're gonna close up at 9 o'clock because I had to get home. 9:20, 9:30, they were still there. And I couldn't leave because I didn't want those two ladies walking in the dark outside, whatever. So I get home, take a quick shower, go to bed, get up at 3:20 in the morning. That's why I can get up at 3 o'clock to exercise now. And then head for Brownfield, Texas. Those kids were unbelievable. During the summer, they worked in the grapes, they worked in the peanuts, they worked in whatever. They just worked. And they were so respectful. The only problem we had, right before Christmas, they take about a week off and then a week back. But they make up the work. I had 3 kids that took the Texas State test is real hard, and they passed it, the writing exam, and then they passed pre-calculus. I went to the graduation. But again, let me get back to the parents. The parents treated us like we were gods or whatever. They were so respectful. It's unbelievable. Kids would get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, work till it got dark. During the summer, Ray Jones was the superintendent, but he died in an accident. When we were not knocking on doors, we go to the fields to look for kids. Mary Maldonado was the program director. You remember Mary? And I like going to where they're picking the watermelons because the workers they had big machetes and they open cut the watermelons for us and cut the heart up for us. We get back to the administration office, all sticky, shirt and everything, whatever. But those people were just unbelievable. So I never worked with Brownfield, with migrant kids or migrant parents, but I learned something. And I learned something from them, the respect and the fact that they wanted to learn. It was something that some of our kids don't have here. So this is my 8th year with the Lovington schools, and 9. So this comes up to 47 years, and Mother Nature's not kind. I'm 83 years old, so I don't have many years left. So I tell the kids at the jail, I have one foot in the grave, and I guess we all do because we never know when the big guy puts your name into the computer. But I just wanted to say something positive, not going against board policy. So I hope I didn't do that.
You did good.
Appreciate it. Anybody else, any other announcements, comments? Take a motion for adjournment.
Vámonos.
Second. No.
All in favor?
Ah.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
Jerry.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Selection process all
I thought you said, I thought.
I gave her Terry and I gave Terry mine out of my drawer, so.
Superintendent, and then you said,
And so.
in an accident,
Yes.
and I'm like. Thank you.
Like for that one, we did not. Those staff, they have their own selection committee that makes that decision.
So, 4 to 6 years, you said? For 10?
46.
How many